The country music family in the whole South remembers Charlie Daniels. We lost Charlie Daniels this week at the age of 83. I am John Rawl, and this is our Nashville Music Line report, where we cover everything that goes on in Music City, USA. You can find us at Yall.com. You also can go to Facebook, and there at Facebook, look for us at Yall Magazine on Facebook. And we post up each week our conversation that we have with Preshias Harris, our insider on Music Row in Nashville, Tennessee. And we're going to go to our lady right along 16th and 17th and 18th Avenue in Nashville right now to get her thoughts on the passage of Charlie Daniels and other information going on in Nashville, Tennessee. Hello, Precious.
Hello. It's a sober week this week.
It is.
Yeah. Passing of the iconic Charlie Daniels is just rock Music City. I bet I've got about 17 press releases of everybody in country music from Dolly Parton, the Bellamy's, to Steve Wariner, to Garth, Loretta Lynn, about the passing of Charlie. And I sort of had firsthand reports because my relationships with the Charlie's family, music family, not, Anyway, but I knew that from what I can understand, it has just shook the entire CDB, which stands for the Charlie Daniels Band. But it's the band they got the CDB band, but CDB they consider as a family. It's been working with Charlie for almost 50 years. One of the guys have been. And I think the shortest employee, she's been with him 27 years. So, he keeps his employees. That's what it is. It's a family type thing. But, Charlie was inducted, I think, 3 years ago, probably more than that. It's been a while, in the Grand Ole Opry, which I was glad to see that. It was long overdue. But he had already been very, very active in planning the volunteer jam. I think it started in 1974, if I remember right, when I worked in Macon, Georgia, down there, and got to go to the Capricorn vault of files and tapes and reel-to-reels and things. So, and he's always gave up-and-coming bands a chance, and he actually gave Montgomery and Gentry their big break down there in Florida when they were going down there, because it was a pretty big radio station that was a huge indicator for country radio to help the stars happen. And he actually got Eddie and Troy on the show down there. And I think a couple of years ago, Eddie actually took the torch for the Angelus, which is it's a school and a church and a home for severe people with severe disabilities, crippling disabilities, cerebral palsy, things like that. And Charlie's lifeblood on the other side beside the military thing, he's been doing this for years. And he raises several $100,000 each year. And it's the most, if you ever go there and you don't leave without tears, you probably have a heart of stone. Because I've been to the couple of church services on Sunday after we went to the Angelus, and it'll rock your world, and a kind of thing that you realize Charlie was such a wonderful man. I mean, husband, father, artist. I mean, Dolly Parton said the devil went down to Georgia, but Charlie Daniels went straight to heaven. And I thought that was a really good way to put Charlie. And then I reached out to Doug Gray on Messenger. He's a friend of mine, who's a lead singer, Marshall Tucker, and a founding member. And just his words were just so touching that it was just like he lost a brother. So, but I think this is about as bad of rock in the country music industry as it was when we lost Joe Diffie to COVID, and we lost Kenny Rogers in March, and Miss Jan Howard, the Opry star. And it's just been a rough 3 or 4 months for the country music industry.
Precious, one of the reasons this death of Charlie Daniels comes so hard and so painful is that, again, he had so much going on, even at 83 years old. And we know a cause of death. He had a stroke essentially on Monday, and that's what caused his death, as he did get rushed to the hospital in the Hermitage section of Nashville and unfortunately succumbed to the stroke. But Charlie Daniels, who crossed several different formats with country and southern rock, and don't forget, he did a lot of work in the gospel music business. Charlie Daniels, a true Southern icon.
Oh, he was a true Southern gentleman.
Yeah.
And like I said, I met Charlie 27 years ago. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was like not too far after I come out from when I left Kentucky to move to Nashville. But very gracious, and you can't see it, but behind me there's a picture of Charlie, and he autographed it, and he didn't know my name was spelled Kentucky style, like not normal for Precious, and he
Kentucky
spelled it.
or maybe even redneck style, maybe.
Yeah, he was laughing. He said, I said, you spelled my name wrong. He goes, what? I go, yeah. So he drew my name out and made it like a bug and put little legs on it. And then he wrote it the right way. But I'm going to take a picture of that and post it later on Facebook
Okay. We'll have
with
to
a
take a
picture of
look for it. We
him and
saw.
I, Miss Hazel, at the NATD Honors Awards when he was honored a couple of, maybe 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. He was honored with our Nashville Association of Talent Directors.
Okay.
And Miss Hazel was there. And I will tell you, I never, ever took a picture with Charlie. If Miss Hazel was around, if she was there, she is going in the picture.
And that's her. We're looking at that
Because they
photo
are two
now.
peas in a pod.
Precious, we're looking at that photo now of Hazel is to your right, Charlie's right beside you, and then one of your former clients also in that photo taken at that awards.
And Miss Lindsay Aaron, yeah, she had kept the picture because I had gotten, I think I just looked at my pictures, and I think I had 9,000 on my phone that I just uploaded and synced to my computer. So I couldn't find it. So I reached out to Lindsay, and she was gracious enough to post it on Facebook and tag me in it. So, and like I said, I'll repost it with the picture of Charlie behind me with the little bug on the picture. And one day he was having a benefit, for his military cause. And I was late because they were having a Iron Maiden and some kind of headbangers, thrashers, metal thrash, rock and roll at the Bridgestone Arena. And everybody had bits of steel coming out of different body parts and tattoos and punk style and everything. And I couldn't get through because I was afraid I would fall because I was dressed pretty nice and, little heels. And I come in and I'm like, oh my God, it was raining. I come in there and I heard somebody go, Precious, you're late. And I was like, and it was Charlie because he knew I was supposed to be there like 20 minutes earlier to do a media interview and I did get to do it. But I apologized to him. He said, I'm just glad you showed up, bought a ticket. I said, well, thank you, dear.
But I know a lot of artists
always
from various formats have chimed in on the passage of Charlie Daniels. We saw Jerry Lee Lewis, who is in his late 80s. He had some very kind words about Charlie's, especially about his walk with God, his Christian faith. That was pretty impressive. One thing that stuck out with me, Precious, is not only Teddy Gentry of Alabama with a quote about Charlie Daniels, but Randy Owen of the group Alabama was very, very forthcoming after the passage was announced on Monday about just how important Charlie Daniels was to the group Alabama.
Oh yeah, he when they first started, they were sort of on that same circuit. I mean, like Charlie was already had the bigger hits and things, but Alabama, because they were bands, they were the late '80s, early '90s, or mid '80s, and going into there. A lot of the bands, you had Wet Willie, you had Charlie Daniels, you had Marshall Tucker, you had Alabama that's teeter-tottering. Because when they showed up at the country radio seminar and they played back in, I think it's 1981, they said, you're not country, you're rock and roll. So that tells you how rough radio was on Alabama back then when they said that they were rock and roll and not country. Now we look back and we're like, well, that's pretty country now compared to now. But yeah, Teddy was, when I spoke with Teddy when I worked with Teddy many years ago, he was talking about how that they were going to try to team up with Charlie when the Nashville flood happened. I don't know if they got on the same benefit to help the Bama Rising, when they had that big flood and everything. It was really, really bad. I forgot how many people lost their lives. But I think he just reached out to Charlie, and Charlie goes, yeah, I'll do it. I'm going to charge a dime. And he did it. He showed up, band and all, crew. And like I said, Barry, I just can't say enough about Mr. Charlie. And my heart is so sad for Miss Hazel, because you talk about the marriage vows and 2 or 1. They've been married, I know, at over 50 years at least. I can't remember when. I remember their anniversary because they sent us a Christmas card one year, and they had they had hit the milestone of their 40th anniversary. So it had been a while, but I mean, that's one of the couples that you hope that you have a marriage like Trish and Garth and Charlie and Miss Hazel. Everybody knew Miss Hazel as Miss Hazel, and she was put on a pedestal. So I always, whenever I was there and I was able to, always make sure she was in the picture with Charlie. And I'm so glad we got some wonderful pictures at the Angelus with her. One of them, one year we used it, ended up on the Christmas card that we took, and I thought that was pretty good. And we took down there, him and Miss Hazel. It was beautiful. He looked like Santa Claus with a cowboy hat on, but it was an awesome picture.
A job well done for the North Carolina native Charlie Daniels, and I got to give him a lot of credit. He spent most all of his time in Nashville living in Mount Juliet. That's just east of Nashville and arguably the most famous resident of that community. And, of course, it's also the hometown of one Cracker Barrel restaurant. So between Cracker Barrel and Charlie Daniels, Mount Juliet, you done good. I also have to give Charlie Daniels a very special shout-out. Precious, you and I, we run our mouth, and we have this thing called Twitter that we can put out there and let people know our thoughts and more. But it was Charlie Daniels, correct me if I'm wrong, Precious, as my fellow 1990s journalist in country music, he was the original celebrity blogger, was he not?
Well, if you call it blogging, now they call it blogging.
Yeah.
But
he had his own
couple months.
He had he had a website, his website, and he would go on there and just start spewing thoughts about politics, whatever was on his mind. And this is right when the internet started. And
oh yeah.
And it was pretty neat.
Yeah, that's Charlie. You call that blogging? Yes, that was Charlie. But I'm telling you, we were doing the awards one night, CMT Awards, and he was doing something to practice, and he was up there and he was going. And the producer of the show said, "Got to get rid of your gum." He goes, "Read my lips." No, it ain't happening. But he always had the gum on the right side of it right here. At first, when I first met him, I thought it was dip, and no, that is gum. I said I was going to say, when you don't go with tobacco, you go like this.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know, but a very tough loss.
I was raised in FFA, so everybody I went to school with had a dip in their mouth. Ugh,
a guy that had a great voice. He had such a great talent with that fiddle and more. He crossed again country and southern rock, one of the pioneers of that format, and did a lot of work in gospel music and so much more. Just a true southern gentleman. Charlie Daniels, losing him this week at the age of 83. A job well done and someone we'll never forget. Preshias Harris, we're going to move on from talking about Charlie Daniels to another giant of country music that he and his wife have had to come up with a plan, unfortunately because of coronavirus. Garth and Trisha Yearwood, what's going on with these two with their plans and how they're readjusting?
Well, Garth's been very active and rescheduling concerts, doing the drive-in concerts in the last couple of months, once that everybody got through for their head spinning when the COVID hit in March. And him and Trish has been holding regular Facebook shows from the G Room, Garth's Facebook channel. But they apparently had an unexpected exposure to the COVID.
Oh.
So to keep everybody safe, they have gone into quarantine. So no cameraman, nobody doing any filming or anything. And I'm pretty sure it was professional people that were there helping Garth. So he's just, sorry, I'm out for 2 weeks. I gotta behave myself and not be on there. But it just goes to show that he's very sympathetic, and he didn't have to do that.
But he hasn't been tested.
First.
He's not positive.
No, he's not positive.
Okay.
No.
Okay. He's just being precautious.
Someone apparently who was near him was.
Okay.
And had symptoms and shown symptoms and had tested. And because they had been in close contact in the last 14 days, Garth and Trisha decided to go on the side of safety and do a complete quarantine for 2 weeks. So it's for Garth to do that. He's taking this very, very seriously.
Okay.
for him to do that. But I'm glad he did, because it just goes to show that he's respectful of the people around him, respectful. The worst one thing you don't want to do as a singer is get on a ventilator with your vocal cords, because there's a really good chance that you wouldn't be able to speak again if you do get off, and a good chance that you wouldn't. I think they said that only 20% of people make it off the ventilator alive with this COVID. So we want to make sure that none of that even goes south, period. So cut it off at the pass, so to speak.
Miss Harris, one positive thing about Garth Brooks, if you need your Garth Brooks fix right now, is a pre-recorded show starring Garth Brooks that was done with him in concert on June 27th is now available at drive-in theaters. What more can you tell us about that?
Oh, Garth, if you go to his, now remember, he only does music from a certain site, because of the way things are done. He doesn't want it to get in the hands. He wants it to go to the people without a lot of cost and things like that, that it can't be recorded or duplicated. Especially with some of the, what they call the creepy crawlers underneath that steal songs. And I think Garth had 3 or 4 terabytes full of illegally downloaded music. Taylor Swift had 2 terabytes last time I looked. But anyway, yeah, he's got his recordings that you can get. You can also look on the internet on YouTube, and he has his recordings there on the official Garth channel.
Precious, let's move on to a guy who is right now number 1 on the chart, and that would be a fellow named Luke Bryan. And Luke Bryan on top with the Billboard Country Airplay chart with One Margarita. What a nice feat by the Georgia singer.
Can I say that again, darling?
Luke
One
Bryan.
Margarita, yes.
One Margarita is 1. Numero 1.
Numero, yes. It just hit the top of the charts.
Yeah.
Even though they're not officially back to work, but the label and the promotion people have not stopped. But yeah, Luke has, I think it would be his 22nd number 1, I think, 23rd number 1. Because I went to his party for the 17th, 18th, and 19th number 1 a couple of years ago at CMA Fest. And that's when he had, he said, here I am celebrating my 17th, 18th, and 19th number 1 when I was on the red carpet at the CMT Awards on Wednesday. He said, somebody held a mic in my face and said, what are you going to name the dogs? And he's like, I think you got me mixed up with Blake Shelton. He's about, foot taller than me, but he didn't quite say it that way. He goes, I don't think that's my song. He was very, very courteous and didn't call him too far out.
I see.
But
well,
I love Luke. I met him when he had good directions for Billy Currington. Him and Rachel Therodoe wrote that song. And I met, like I said, Luke was a songwriter before he was an artist. And he had, like I said, he put a hit for Billy Currington. But, he gave, Cole Swindell, him from the same Georgia Southern, the same university. He gave Cole Swindell his big break because he was selling T-shirts for him. Sort of like Martina McBride selling T-shirts for Garth. But, had the opportunity. And even though Cole got signed by a different label than what Luke was on, he was a big mover and shaker in Cole's thing. So congratulations, Luke, on your 23rd number 1 song.
And the people that he puts to work for him, well, some of them, they actually do a little double duty, and that was the case with Michael Carter, his band leader, Precious. He is one of the 3 co-writers of One Margarita.
Yes, he's also wrote You Ain't Worth the Whiskey. I mean, he produced the song You Ain't Worth the Whiskey for Cole, too. Because one of my kids co-wrote that from Georgia, down there near Milledgeville. But yeah, Michael Carter is an incredible musician, but he's also an incredible producer.
And an incredible band leader, evidently.
Yes. Yeah. Them Georgia boys stick together. I'm telling you. Just ask the Georgia peach pickers.
There's some talent in that red mud in Georgia. And Luke Bryan's sure got a lot of talent, and he continues to, again, crank out. What number did you say, number 1? This was his which number 1 song? 20-something?
23rd.
23rd. Gosh. Luke Bryan, not to be confused with North Carolina's Luke Combs. Let's ask a trivia question, Preshias Harris. Which country star made his Grand Ole Opry debut, then met his future wife for the first time backstage at the Ryman Auditorium? And it was on this day in just a few years ago, back in 1956. Don't answer it. We'll get that answer from you in just a second. We got some good classic country knowledge coming from Preshias Harris in just a second. Speaking of great music and great classic country music, I do believe, Precious, we have Jeannie Seely with some new music coming our way. Please share the word about this Grand Ole Opry star.
Well, she's been working on it for almost 8 or 9 months. I ran into her at the dinner last November. We had the awards, and she had already been in the studio working with the fiddle player that does a lot of stuff on General Jackson, and he used to be on TNN a lot, and working with him on the record. And so it's been a long time coming. So I'm glad it's finally out. I think they were planning on having it earlier this year, but with COVID, it just happened to coincide on her 80th birthday.
Oh,
so I thought that was, unfortunate that, she didn't get out earlier, but I think it was meant to be because landing on her 80th birthday, you know what I mean? So
I didn't know that she had just turned 80. So happy birthday, Jeannie Seely. And again, this is a new record out there that people can check out if they'd like and learn more about this lady who has been a member of the Grand Ole Opry for a long, long time, and she's got to be the most active member of the Opry, Precious. Every time I turn around, you hear her singing on the Opry.
Yeah, she actually is, and she has been for a long time. I actually met her during Chicken Soup of the Country So when I worked the book. Mm-hmm. But she was actually married to Hank Cochran, who wrote I Fall to Pieces and all just hit after hit after hit. He's in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. If you Google, you'll see. I mean, he's almost like a Harlan Howard, And then she was the first woman to wear a miniskirt.
Precious, I was about to correct you, and you just corrected me. It just shows the similarity between Jeannie Seely and Jan Howard, because Jan Howard at one time was married to
Harlan Howard. Harlan and Hank were friends.
I know. So that gets confusing. And then, of course, Jeannie and Jan were on the Opry forever. And so I'm glad you clarified that for me. It gets a little confusing. And
I know.
It's going to get even more confusing when we answer that trivia question in just a second about who fell in love on the Opry stage some years ago. But the album from Jeannie Seely is an American classic. What do you think about that? I know you're looking like you're excited about that, Precious.
Very excited.
You're just excited to run out and get that right now. I was just teasing your...
No, actually, I'm waiting on her publicist to send me a copy. No, just kidding. I'm going to download it.
All right, well...
Because like I said, I love Jeannie. We're Facebook friends, but I got a great picture of she and I. Well, my friend took it of Miss Jeannie and Carolyn Corlew, which is Charlie Daniels' backup singer and the wife of Charlie's longtime manager. And I think he's managed Charlie for over 40-something years. I have a great picture of us in our little sparklies and our diamonds and our heels at the NATD, honors gala. I think it was last year. No, was it last year? Last year, year before last. It was recent. And I love that picture. I should have posted on her birthday, but sometimes I don't always make it to Facebook when I need to make it. And fortunately, that's my newswire from my family and the music industry sometimes, just trying to catch up.
Yeah. And you are forgiven. You are forgiven. Precious, let's move on and want to talk about some modern country music. And it looks like the great duet, I Hope You're Happy Now. And that was a great duet with Lee Brice and also Carly Pearce. It looks like even in this coronavirus time, they had a chance to somewhat get together and celebrate. What can you tell us about the celebration of this #1 song?
I haven't seen Lee's celebration from his label, but I think that they had a small, very small, 10 people or less get together with a big #1 balloon. But and then they sent out in different screens. They did like a Skype, Zoom type thing to everybody congratulating her and things like that they put out to the media. I knew it when I heard the song the first time when we got the review to do the single review. I knew it was going to be a really good, because everybody loves duets. Everybody's waiting for the next big duet. And when I heard their voices sing the song, I knew it was going to be another number one for Lee, because he celebrated last September for his number one. I want to say it wasn't Rumors, I think. Anyway, because I didn't get to go because one of my clients was having a CD release party. So I ended up having to not to miss it, but but I'm glad Lee is rocking and rolling. And I heard he's working on some new music too, so I'm anxious to hear that.
And how about some heavy hitters on the co-write of this number one and platinum single, I Hope You're Happy Now? Not only did Carly Pearce, the Kentucky girl, write this, but she had some heavy hitters join her. Jonathan Singleton, he's been a singer-songwriter around Nashville for a while. Randy Montana, also singer-songwriter. And another guy that might be a little bit more familiar with you that is a singer and songwriter, Luke Combs. As if Luke Combs needed more spins on the radio, here he goes with this one, I Hope You're Happy Now. Not bad. So congratulations to Lee Brice and Carly Pearce with that great success. Precious, let's answer that trivia question if you have the opportunity to help me out here. And the trivia question that we want to ask and follow up on was, which country star made his Grand Ole Opry debut, then met his future wife for the first time backstage at the Ryman Auditorium, the mother church of country music, and they did this on this date in 1956. Precious, who was it?
It was Johnny Cash.
Oh.
Man in Black.
And he met June Carter.
June Carter.
Who?
And I did see an interview on the national public television here with his daughter Roseanne Cash, and she said she knew. She was talking very candid, very just solid honesty, saying she said she knew when she met June that it was that her dad would eventually marry Miss June.
Because in 1956, Johnny would have been married to his first wife, Roseanne's mother, and I assume...
With the other two girls, yeah. And then they had... he was married to her, and she didn't want to be in the spotlight, didn't want to be anything to do with the entertainment. She was happy to stay at home mom, housewife, homemaker, whatever they called it back then. But he had three girls, Roseanne, her two sisters, and then him, the only... child of June Carter and Johnny is John Carter Cash, and so he's very much involved in the music industry here in Nashville.
Precious, let's talk about some number one songs from this week throughout the decades. Act Naturally from Buck Owens, which went on to be some group called the Beatles, a big hit for them. It was on this week in 1963 that was number one. Why Me from Chris Christopherson in 1973. It was number one. This week in 1983, the Gentle Giant Don Williams and Love Is on a Roll. Then we go to 1993 for That Summer from Garth Brooks. Speaking of husbands and wives, that was a song co-written by his wife Sandy, and I'm sure his former wife Sandy, and I guess she still gets royalty checks for that one. So a good collaboration for sure. Then Toby Keith.
And they had to write it several times. I'm not going to say who it was, but there was a big songwriter that was mentoring them and helping them get ready. And he heard the song. He knew it was a great idea, but he made them go back and retweak it and retweet. You know what I mean? Not tweet.
Tweet.
Yeah.
Tweety Bird. Yeah.
Yeah.
We know what you're saying.
Yeah, with a K. Yeah. And they come back and they knew when they heard it, they immediately, it's not going to go on the album. They ended up being on the album and a pretty big single for him too. So
that was number 193 in 2003. The number one song this week, Beer from Our Horses from Toby Keith and Willie Nelson. And then Cruise from FGL, number one this week in 2013. Precious, I heard a song on the radio prior to coming on with you. I've kind of been making a habit of hearing these songs and then wanting to get your thoughts on what I just heard. And unfortunately, I'm going to ask you about somebody that's having a real struggle right now, and it's Hal Ketchum. Hal Ketchum, the singer behind Small Town Saturday Night. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2019. Do you have any information on Hal Ketchum?
I have a little, and it come from a very good source. Um, he has come to terms with what has happened, like especially after they announced it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a very, very hard disease. It has affected my family several ways. I've had my aunt had it, and it was a very, very, it's rough. So I'm hoping, like we also know that Glenn Campbell had it, and it is a very, very rough time on this family. So I'm hoping. I know that his health is still okay, as far as just the normal, that like the, his heart's okay, things like that. But it is probably going to be a struggle in the coming years as it slowly progresses.
And you mentioned Glenn Campbell. His widow Kim has just authored a book called My Mind in Sickness and in Health with Glenn Campbell. That's a read that everybody can check out now. Again, such a terrible disease is Alzheimer's, and you can learn more about that struggle. We wish Hal Ketchum, again, with songs like Past the Point of Rescue, Small Town Saturday Night, Curb Records artist of the 1990s, with a real battle right now, and our thoughts certainly go out to him. I think he's living in Austin, Texas, if I'm not mistaken. I know he was in
Yes.
Nashville for many years, kind of flying in and out and things like that. Let me remind you who we have been talking with here on our Y'all show, and that is Preshias Harris, and she is available as a music career development consultant, and we encourage you to go to NashvilleMusicLine.com to find out more about that. Also, College of Songology is a website for you to learn about how she can help you or someone you know with a goal to be a music career person, whether a singer or songwriter. And you can follow Preshias's blog at NashvilleMusicLine.com. She's also author of the book I Know Country, and that is a book that is available with 366 daily country music questions and answers, and it is available for you to check out at iknowcountry.com, and has plenty of wonderful information to get you through each day of the year with what all is going on in Music City, USA. And Preshias is able to join us each week right here on the Y'all Show to give us kind of her insight on what is happening on Music Row. And Preshias, we thank you for that and wish you and yours the best, and look forward to talking to you again real soon.
That's for sure. And I got some good news next week, so remind me, and I'll tell you about the latest single from one of my clients. It just was the highest rising indie single on the CDX chart. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I'll tell you more next week.
I can't wait for that. Just at least give me the initials of who you're talking about.
Dallas. I mean, DR.
Okay.
I'll just tell you.
All right. And everybody's now, Dallas, who the heck's Dallas? Dallas. All right, well, we'll get the answer for sure next week. Preshias, thank you very much, and you have a good rest of your week.
Bye, everybody.
All right. And that wraps up our conversation. We'll have more of y'all right after this.